Hey there. Welcome to the Daily Faded. I am your host, Hetz, and it's time to get faded and talk about news and politics. So the first step to that is always to take a hit. Among other amazing things, I got called a cocksucker on Twitter today. That was entertaining. But I guess, if that's the worst I got called on Twitter today, then that's a good day. Hello to my viewer. Happy to see there's someone here. I'm a little bit tired. I've been up since 2:30 this morning. Don't ask me why. I don't have a good answer. I think the first thing that we need to talk about today is the coronavirus. And I did a bit of reading about it today and heard a really great interview on Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman, with an epidemiologist. There's over 81,000 people infected with the coronavirus right now. The 1918 influenza pandemic, which is the worst pandemic in the history of the planet that we're aware of, certainly in 20th century history. The Trump administration and Trump's than the flu, the symptoms might be mild, but if it gets bad, it's much deadlier than the flu. And really, we don't have any idea how many cases of it there are in the United States. We've only tested under 500 people for it so far in the United States, whereas South Korea now, of course, they're obviously closer to China, so they have more reason to test for it there than we do. Although arguably, I don't know so much about that. But in South Korea, they've tested 35,000 people already. And obviously they must have tested over 100,000 if there's 81,000 confirmed cases, and most of them are in China. I talked about this a little bit today in my Faded Minute that I put up in the middle of the day today. Viruses are mutating. There's all kinds of ways for new diseases to come out and get into the human population, both crossover viruses, but also there's concern about viruses that have been caught in the ice for, thousands of years, suddenly being released and coming back to life in the way that only a virus can. So there could be new viruses that we've never had to deal with before because they've been frozen in ice for thousands of years. And, if you see what's going on in China, if you see the 18-wheelers trying to haul food into Wuhan to keep people alive, everything is completely shut down. If we get anything, the CDC, I don't know if it's the CDC or the NIH, one of them sent out test kits around the country, and it turned out the test kits that they sent out were completely flawed. They had some broken part in them and didn't work. So there are only a couple of places in the United States where you can even test for it. I don't say this very often, but it makes me wish that Obama was the president, because at least with Obama, I knew that things like this would be handled professionally. I don't think Obama would have let Puerto Rico perish under Hurricane Maria the way that Trump did. And Obama handled Ebola and handled it well, and that was probably, in the end, as disgusting and awful as that disease is, that was probably not as dangerous as this coronavirus condition that we've got to deal with now. So obviously that's top in the news. One thing I saw was Trump's lies were, not the only lies going around out there. Mark Levin, great, coming up with an insult that no one's ever heard before. Again, I'm really tired because I've been up since 2:30 this morning, so this one might not run quite as long tonight. And for anyone new watching this, I'm Hetz. This is the Daily Faded, where I get faded and talk about politics and news. So when the coup happened in Bolivia, and it was somehow questionable to call it a coup, even though the military had forced the rightfully elected president out of office, there was all these cries of irregularities from the Organization of American States, which, by the way, if you don't know it, is just another front operation for the United States. The U.S. basically controls the OAS. And Washington Post reported today that everything, including Morales's lead, looks like it was exactly as it was described as at the time. So, a lot of us were saying at that time that it was just another American coup in Latin America, and it turns out we were right. We were right. The election was not a fraudulent election. So, whatever, you can say whatever you want to say about Morales changing the Constitution so that he could get a third term. Well, Mike Bloomberg did the same thing in New York City. So I don't really think that we should be judging someone else's democracy based on that. So that was just a little bit of an update. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go very late tonight because I'm so tired. But, lies, lies, lies. Elizabeth Warren was on CNN last night, and she got a question about superdelegates. And she told a couple of, either she's misunderstood or she was telling lies, because she said that the delegate system that we have is the delegate system that Bernie Sanders fought for at the DNC Unity Reform Commission. And that's not really true. The Sanders wing of that commission, which was the minority, the majority of it were Clinton appointees and DNC chair appointees. But the few Bernie people who were on that commission, they fought to get rid of superdelegates entirely. And they were unsuccessful. And what they ended up with was, we'll have superdelegates on the second round. But Warren portrayed it on CNN last night in the town hall as if this was Bernie's idea, that we would have superdelegates on the second round. Now, Bernie is on tape over and over again saying that he doesn't believe in superdelegates. And it is true that he reached out to superdelegates late in the campaign cycle in 2016, but Elizabeth Warren presented it that he was trying to get them to overturn the will of the people and make him the nominee. That's not really what happened. What actually happened, and I saw several old interviews from 2016 today showing exactly what he was doing. He went on TV and he talked about it, then calling the superdelegates and saying, go for the candidate that your state went for. I think that's a reasonable argument. The main point is he was making that argument. He was making that argument in private, and he was making that argument in public. He was not making the argument. And in one of the interviews, he says, Hillary Clinton, beat the hell out of me in Mississippi, so she should get the Mississippi superdelegates. So he wasn't going and saying the Mississippi superdelegates should be given to me, even though Hillary won Mississippi. So that was at best a misunderstanding, at worst a mischaracterization or a lie. But Biden did one even better than that. Biden Biden told a lie about getting arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela, and he got called out on that, which I thought, now that is a real beaut. He's like, he isn't getting enough out of casting himself as Obama's buddy. Now he's going to try and make himself Mandela's buddy. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. You know, the reason part of the reason that I do this at night is, well, because at night I like to smoke some weed. So that's part of it. But also, like, talking about the coronavirus, you know, when my wife got home, but when you just got home from a stressful day of work and you just got the kids back from school, which is always stressful, further detail though, but shit, now I completely forgot what I was saying. Anyway, like I said, tonight's going to be a short one. Yeah, you know what? There's really only one thing left that I wanted to talk about tonight. You know, the news was all corona with the most pledged delegates. So, and that they're willing to risk fracturing the party, which is a terrible mistake, because if they do that, they will blackpill an entire generation of would-be Democrats. I don't think the party can survive that. And let me be clear: if Joe Biden goes in with a plurality but not a majority, then I think Joe Biden should be the nominee. If Elizabeth Warren does, then Elizabeth Warren should be the nominee. I think it should be a democratic process where the person with the most votes gets the nomination. In the Democratic Party, that should be the democratic process. The fact that the Republican primaries are more democratic in some ways than the Democratic primaries because they don't have superdelegates. I went a half an hour the last 3 nights. I can't go a half an hour tonight. I won't make it. So there's one other great article in CNN today, on CNN. And the headline is, "A woman took 550 times the usual dose of LSD with surprisingly positive consequences. Found that the foot pain she had suffered from since her 20s was dramatically reduced. Separately, a 15-year-old girl with bipolar disorder overdosed on 10 times the normal dose of the drug, which she said resulted in a massive improvement in her mental health." I have always argued that hallucinogens were good for mental health. As someone who is bipolar myself, I can tell you that nothing has helped me as much as MDMA, which is obviously different from psilocybin or LSD, but not that different. Anyway, on socialism, there was one last thing that I wanted to talk about. So Bernie has been saying this thing, and his surrogates say this thing a lot, which is, we have socialism in this country. We have socialism for the rich. Now, that's a paraphrasing of the Martin Luther King Jr. quote, which I believe is that he said, I believe the quote is, he said it was, we in America, we have socialism for the rich and rugged individualism for everyone else. Far be it from me to argue with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but socialism for the rich is an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms. Megan Day, who writes for The Jacobin, tweeted today, "Socialism describes the belief that the system in which a minority of people owns an indefensible denial of equality and freedom." And I think that's a perfectly good definition for socialism, for given that there's so many different kinds of socialism and people mean so many different things when they say socialism. But that is a good definition. And the key to it is this issue of a minority people owning a substantial amount of capital. And if you are taking money from the public and redirecting it towards the capital, towards the small group of people who have the significant amount of capital, that is by definition capitalism. It is not socialism, because in socialism, you're taking from the capital class and you're redistributing to the proletariat, for lack of a better word. So if you're taking money and consolidating it with a few people, that's by definition not socialism. You have to be taking what is needed by the people, whether it's goods, services, or money, and you have to be spreading it out to the people. Boy, that was not a good. That would not pass. That would not pass an econ class. That description of socialism. Not that econ classes even talk about socialism that much. All right, guys. Well, like I said, I've been up since 2. I may or may not do a live stream tomorrow night. I'm not sure. I think I might do this Monday through Thursday. So, but feel free to check in at 8 o'clock tomorrow, and I may or may not be here. Anyway, peace out. Good night. Be well, and I'll see you next time.